Daniel Gindlesperger is a new and passionate writer who embarked on his writing journey in his 50s. His book, No One Dies Today, Bleeding Through the Soul, is a gripping crime story where Tim, a conflicted killer, unexpectedly finds love amidst the chaos of his life while navigating a war that has become so personal and cost both sides dearly. And Daniel is with us here just now. How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day in the Northwest.
Oh, yeah. And I wish I could say the same about here, but it's a traditional British summer we've got here. So this book sounds like a fascinating idea, really, where this killer is kind of finding love. What inspired that unique idea?
This is the second book in the series. The first one is A Long Walk into the Black Hole, and I'm working on the third book. But the idea is that Tim, our main character, when he starts out, he's forced into a life where he's killing people. And the person who starts him on this journey, he doesn't have a choice. It's basically kill or be killed.
Yeah.
Thinks that he's a psychopath. And that's why he recruited him. But as the story evolves, you learn he's not.
Yeah.
He's not just a cold-hearted killer, but there are things in his life that cause him to not be affected emotionally by doing the bad things that he's doing.
And what kind of things in his life cause him to do this?
His childhood. He reflects back into his childhood and his parents really not being hands-on, and him being afraid to build relationships with people. So he distanced himself emotionally from other people, except for his two best friends in the book, which are John and Shelley. So with having his brain working in that way, it makes it easier because he doesn't develop emotional responses to other people like most people would until he finds the love of his life.
So how did you go about developing Tim's character and making him so multi-dimensional and authentic?
Tim is an amalgamation of people that I've known throughout my entire life.
Yeah.
Which, I think most writers, they build on what they know. So when I grew up, I used to hang out with a lot of bikers and a lot of weird people. So I've taken the best and worst parts of those people and built it into somebody who's multifaceted, who if you were to meet him on the street, you would say that's just a normal dude. But the deeper you get into where he's from and what he does, you start to understand him better, and you don't think of him as this killer, hugely bad guy that you hate and want to just die immediately. Yeah. You understand where he's coming from, and you realize that he's been put in a position that he's just trying to make it through day by day by day.
So does the reader feel sorry for him at any point? Or is it still kind of, he is a killer and he's bad?
In the first book, the idea is you feel bad for him, right? You want him to be able to walk away from what he's doing. But as the story progresses, you start to understand him more, and you understand that he doesn't want to do this, but he's actually good at it.
Yeah.
He has a skill set there that he's a smart kid. He's always been smart, according to the storylines, right? And he figures out ways to do things to keep people out of prison, which is what he's been hired by the mob or forced to work for the mob to keep them out of jail.
Yeah.
So he starts getting good at it. So I've done a lot of research into how he's ending people just to figure out how he can do it and not go to prison.
Now, you're a relatively new writer, so did you have any challenges when you were starting work on this series?
The first book was amazingly challenging, I can tell you. Yeah. It's a short book. It's a novella. It's only 18,000 words, and it took me a year because I was constantly going over it and just trying to make it perfect. And then I realized after about a year that I needed to get it out there. I needed to just self-publish, put it out there and let people read it and get responses. So far, the responses I've gotten, I don't have a lot of reviews, but the reviews I have are very good. And that led me directly into book two. Book two took 6 months, and it's over 60,000 words.
You mentioned that you're working on book 3. So what can you tell us about that? And then after that, is there a book 4 or just even books outside of the series that you're thinking about?
Book 3, in the end of book 1, you have a kind of a cliffhanger, but it's not really. Book 2 ends with a cliffhanger, and they go directly, book 1 goes directly into book 2, goes directly into book 3. And you're going to learn more about the characters and who they are. There are things that happen that aren't directly related to the storyline, but it gives you an idea of who they are. because none of these people that are doing these bad things, or at least the people that Tim with all the time, are really bad people. They're just trying to make it day to day. Which, it's very complicated at a certain point, because you learn to, you start caring about the characters, and then you hear about them doing something horrible, and you're like, should I really care about them? But it's like if you have a child, if you're a parent, your kid does bad things, you still love them.
Yes.
Now there's a couple of other storylines I have working in the background. So once I do book 3, depending on response, there may be a book 4, but there will be time allotted in between. I have a sci-fi series I'm working on that's going to be different than anything that you've read about aliens. I'm going a completely different direction. And I also have a horror story that I'm on chapter 8 on, which is... It is a story about the church and exorcisms, but again, I'm trying to take it to a direction that nobody's done yet. Something that when you read it, you'll say, "I never thought of it." But I mean, when you're talking about horror, you want there to almost be a glimpse of believability, right?
Yeah, don't you?
You know, Frankenstein's not real. But you're like, but he could be. So that's I want to give us this glimpse, this insight into maybe that is possible.
Well, in the meantime, where are we able to find the whole series of books that you've done so far for No One Dies Today?
Everything is on Amazon, and it should also be on the Apple Store.
Excellent. Well, many thanks for talking to you. It's been great to have you here, and I look forward to hearing when the 3rd book comes out.
Well, thank you very much for your time and talking to me today. You have an exciting day out there in England, and try to stay warm.